Hello, beautiful. Get your coffee. It's time for Coffee with Matilda, a journey to self. Today, I'm with my co-host, Nathalie Delaine, and we're going to talk about how to be the CEO of your life. Today's topic is how to plan your life or how to plan so you can get to your goals in life. Right, Nathalie?
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's a very important topic because I think anything in life starts with planning. And if you don't do this section right, I don't. If you don't plan right, I don't think you're gonna have more smooth ride. Not necessarily everything is smooth, but at least A to B won't be in a straight line.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. And sometimes your goal or what you expected to achieve doesn't necessarily look the way you wanted it to because you didn't really plan the right path or the right steps or right.
Mhm.
Like sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay if if it looks a little bit different. But if you wanted to lose 10 pounds and you only lost 8.5, right? Like it's not a bad thing, but like sometimes planning really helps you get laser focused on what you want.
I think that's one of the steps that I'm missing in my life. I don't like planning. I like to, but then, I have a goal. It's not like I don't have a goal. But the planning part, I get annoyed and I'm like, okay, like tomorrow. Okay, we'll start it next time or something. So I think maybe the reason why I haven't reached certain goals in my life is because I didn't have the right planning.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting, right? So it's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. They're very intertwined, right? So when we plan, it helps us identify exactly what our goals are. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can say you have a goal, but without having a plan around it, it doesn't really exist, right? So when you sit down, you're like, okay, wait, I do want to lose 8 pounds. Then you're like, okay, how do I get to that point from here,
Mhm.
right? And one thing about planning that people don't really realize is it helps you learn how to use your resources. And by resources, I mean people, time, money, information, equipment. Like depending on what your goal is, like you need resources to help you get there. And sometimes you don't realize that you need some of that stuff to get to that point Z, let's say. So planning is a great tool because it kind of maps out. You're like, oh, okay, wait, I'm gonna need a trainer, I'm gonna need a gym, I'm gonna need 5 hours a week, right? Like you go through all those things and it just really narrows it down, helps you.
I never look at it that way. I'm like, 8 kilo, okay, 8 pounds. We don't talk about kilos. 8 pounds. Oh, maybe I shouldn't eat this. I shouldn't eat that, and then I'm gonna lose my kilos, but not necessarily I lose exact those kilos or
Mhm.
pounds. So I think it's important to maybe write it down the steps. I think no, that.
Oh yes, that's one of our steps. So I have 5 steps that we're going to go
Uh-huh.
through today, and you just named number 3. So it
No, no, let's
sounds
go number one. Number
okay.
one.
Okay. So one more thing I want to say about planning is that it helps us to like benchmark, right? It helps us to evaluate where we are with our achievements because a lot of big goals have steps. So when you're planning, you can say, okay, I'm 30% done or I'm 80% done or right? Like it helps you it also helps you like to acknowledge your success, right? Like if you're 80% done on a goal, that feels so good. You get to say yes and celebrate that achievement. So planning is also really good to like make a timeline that people don't realize. And again, it creates more time, but in the end, it feels really good to say, wait, I started in October and now we're in May. And yes, right? Like you get a sense of that good sense of achievement on your goal. So, um,
Okay.
well,
So
let's go
tell
to
us
number
how we start.
how we start. So for me, a lot of planning comes with organization, which kind of also just feels like it's one in one. And what I do is I like to organize what's going on in different buckets. So there's the work bucket, there's income or money or investments bucket,
Mhm.
there's spirituality, or I like to say magic too. There's adventures or travels, there's family, there's relationships. So for me, it's getting organized on, okay, what is my goal and what bucket does it fall in my life? And everyone has different buckets and we call them different things, but it's still, we each have different sections of our life. So getting clear on what it is. So let's say I want to plan my mom a party because she's turning 60. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna throw my mom a 60th birthday party,
Nice.
right? So and I'm like, okay, so this is in my family bucket, and that's where the focus is. And so now I know that that has a big activity going on in the bucket of my family, right? And so like I have work still, I still have relationships, I still have friendships, but like in my family bucket for a little bit, I'm going to be really busy and organize my time in that bucket. So to me, getting clear on that and getting kind of organized to me is step number one for sure. Um,
Perfect.
mhm. I'm not really planning a party, but I just thought of that as an example because I did plan her a fifth when she turned 50. We planned her a
Oh,
party, and it was
nice.
so much fun. It was so much fun. Um, the second step, and I love this, and this goes along with a lot of the other things that you and I have spoken
No.
to.
Mm-hmm.
Get clear on what. Like, what do you want to achieve? So, yes, planning my mom a 60th birthday party, but what do I really want to achieve? So I sit there and I think about it. Well, I want my mom to have a good time, right? Because it's her. I don't want her to do any of the work because it's for her. I want to surprise her with some of her relatives. So, like, getting clear on what. So, yeah, because you can easily say, I want to plan a party. But, like, if you don't have like clear things about what you want it to look like, it could be a party full of children. And then who's really enjoying it because we're all just running around and there's a lot of noise. Like, what kind of party? Do you want food catered? Do you want to cook food? Do you want to have a band? Do you want to have a DJ? Right? Like, what do I want this party for my mom to look like? So getting really clear on that step is is after organizing, getting clear on the what. You already said number three. Do you want to say it again since you're so good?
No, say it, say it.
The next step for me, what I find is beyond helpful, is writing it down. Because we are human and you have a lot of things on your plate, I have a lot of things on my plate. And so writing it down, like here's an example of the things that I'm working on right now. Like I write down everything, and not because I'm afraid of forgetting things. It just kind of also goes in line with the organization part of it all, right? Like when I write it down, and then it also helps me being accountable for it. So if I'm writing down, send invites to mom's family, right? Like I know that that's one of the things that I need to do in order to get to the party, because it's not just throwing a party. There's so many things from today until that day. So writing down what your goals are, and then what the steps to get to that goal, and that kind of leads me into the next bullet point. So each goal, let's say, has action items or steps, and this is number four. um and so, for example, if we're going to throw a party, I need to know who the guest list is. I need to know what day, because that's important. I need to pick a place if it's not going to be in my house, like, right? So those three things are individual steps towards the big goal. And that's where a lot of people don't realize, right? Like when you think of, oh, I just want to do that, or I just want to lose weight, or I just want to throw a party. That's great, but there are so many steps in between. Um, so a tip here that I love, and people don't get this for a while until they try it. If you reverse map things, right? So if here, this little point is the party, let's say, what's today? Let's say the party is going to be June 30th and today's May 3rd. So I think of what's going backwards in time. So a week before, what do I need to have done? I need to have make sure that everything is paid for. I need to make sure the caterers are coming. I need to make sure the DJ is coming, that everyone is signed and everyone has a contract. 2 weeks before that, what I need to know if all the people that I sent invites to said yes. So I know how many people to tell the caterers to. 4 weeks before that, what do I need to have? Send out the invites. So do you get the reverse
Yeah.
planning? Like
Hmm.
going backwards from whatever it is that you want to plan, it really, really helps with number four because it goes with number three because it goes through each single step that you don't sometimes realize. It's also good for what I mentioned earlier because it shows you milestones. So like it'll show you how far you've gotten, and that feels good, right? Like even when they're tiny goals, even if they're huge goals, it feels really nice when you see that like you've done part of something or you're getting closer to that to the big thing at the end. Like so when you map things out backwards and then you have like a timeline, you can see, oh, here, or no, I'm not there yet, or like, can I adjust this, right? It also helps you because what if you don't have all the invitations out yet? That's you need to
Sure.
hurry up
Mhm.
because who's going to be at your party if no one's invited? So, um, that's the reverse planning has served me a lot. When it's smaller goals and not as I don't do it as often, but when I have bigger goals, it helps me a lot. Um, the fifth and final step for this is following through. And this is something everyone forgets. Like even me, and I plan all the time, but following through. So if you know the same example of my mom's birthday party, right? Like if you know you sent out the invites last week and you asked people to respond by next Tuesday, you know that on Tuesday you have to follow through and see that everyone wrote back, right? Like so following through on the things that you know still need checking is so important.
It's
Um,
a step that lot. I mean, you can easily forget.
and because you're doing the work, you're excited, there's things happening, but like sometimes you really just forget to like follow through or check in. Like, where am I on my timeline? Like, am I on time? Am I doing the things I'm supposed to do? So following through is super important. I have a tip for following through, actually, and I learned this
Great.
recently. I did a course, just a really, really good course about productivity, and I learned something new, and it's called the stop doing list. So
Oh,
instead
I
of
like that.
yeah, no, it sounds really cool, but instead of making like a to-do list, like my paper with like all the things I have to do, like this is a stop doing list. And basically it's writing down the activities or distractions that pull your focus away or that like stop you from being productive. So for example, I'm gonna stop leaving my phone on while I'm working for an hour on calling the caterers or calling the DJ or right like or I'm going to stop checking my personal email if I'm only going to be talking on the phone with vendors for the party, right? And it can be different things for everyone, but making this list is so helpful because then you realize how many distractions you have. And we're human. A lot of times that people don't complete their goals is because you got distracted, you lost motivation, you didn't really have a clear plan. And I want everyone to be successful in whatever their goals are. Um, and so other examples of stop doing, stop eating at your desk. If that's just like if you're working all day and you're in the same room, like don't eat at the desk, like go outside or go for a walk. Stop reading the news every 5 minutes, right? Like because that's especially in today's world where there's a lot of news all the time and
Sure.
it's not always the most positive news, right? Like so stop checking the news every 5 minutes. Um, what are some things that you could say that you could stop doing? That,
Oh, lots of things. Maybe stop when I wake up. I don't need to go to social media. I should stop that. I should stop. I don't know, doing a lot of things together. I have to pause and just enjoy
mm,
each task as it is. Because
mhm,
I'm usually on the phone right now in LA, driving, answering some text in the middle of red lights. So I think it's important to not complicate your life with all this and dedicate each time for someone for or something. a task per se. I think that helps
It
to
does.
clear the clutter in your head.
100%. And then you're just more productive. And then you get to your goal and it's like celebrate time, like, oh, I did it, I did it. I lost my 10 pounds, or my mom had a great party, and right. So and that feels so good. And then part of why I love doing the steps that I did is because you see how much work you've put into something, and then you can feel really proud about yourself, and that motivates you into like when it's time for a new goal, you're going to be like, oh my God, I was so good at this goal. I know I can do this one now, right? Like you have that sense of like achievement. And that's such a beautiful feeling. Another thing I want to mention too is that, and we've definitely talked about this in other episodes, but connecting to the why, right? Like what's your intention? Like things are going to get tough, right? You're going to get stressed, you're going to forget, or you're at a party and you're trying to lose weight, but they have only pizza and bread, right? So like things get tough. So connecting to the why you want to lose weight. Like why do I want to lose weight? And maybe it's I want to wear this dress I bought for my sister's baby shower, or I want to feel better during the summer months so I can go biking. Like whatever it is, connect to that why, because your intention, you're gonna need it for motivation when the going gets tough.
You mentioned something very interesting, and I thought lots of people might be struggling with that. How can we rearrange our goal when we are or our planning when we lose motivation? So
Mm.
how can we come back to if
I,
we're off track? Well, how
mhm.
can we come back to it?
So I love that question. It's fantastic. So the reverse planning and the writing it down, right? So you kind of sort of have like a little map, if you will, because here's the goal and here are all the steps you need to do. Look at it again. Reevaluate, like, you know what? Maybe this date doesn't work, so move the date. Or maybe I won't have enough money to get all these supplies, so let me try to borrow some things, right? So looking at your, I'm going to call it a roadmap that you created sometimes, and like just reevaluating everything. And then obviously, right, connecting to the why. Like, why is this important to you? Why are you doing this goal in the first place? Do you really, really want it? Like, what makes you excited about this goal? And like when you start asking yourself those questions, and then sometimes maybe it's like, you know what? I'm not excited about this goal. And you get to say, maybe you shouldn't be putting your time and your effort into this thing right now anyway.
That's very important. I think, yeah, just connecting with why is a very important element here. Sometimes we forget that. I mean, I forget that. I don't even I forget. I think maybe if I write the why, write down
Mm-hmm.
the why when I'm planning it, maybe on top of it. So every day or
Yes.
every time when I'm looking at it, I can be reminded of it. Because sometimes you just forget.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, especially if it's something that takes a long time, right? Like, let's say something's you're working on it for months. At a certain point, you forget. I like that idea of writing the why on top of the list of things. I'm gonna steal that. Matilda, you're so good. I'm gonna steal that. But you also reminded me of something else too. A lot of times people are focused on the end results and instead focus on the small things, right? Like not the big shiny thing at the end, but focus on the little piece, the little piece, the little piece. Because if you're just stuck on here, like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds, I want to lose 10 pounds, like it adds stress, it adds anxiety, and then you shouldn't be worried so much about this, because if you're putting in the work, you're going to get there regardless. And I see that happen to a lot of people. Like, yeah, but like I'm just really stressed. I have this goal. And I'm like, all right, so did you make a plan for the goal? Well, no. I'm like, okay, so what if we broke down the big goal into 3 different steps? And then you just focus on one step at a time. And they're like, yeah, I could do that. It helps.
Very nice. I love it.
Mhm.
So, any tips till we're gonna conclude it? What? So how people maybe have to start to be excited about their plans? Do you have any tips for it? Because I think it's important to have very positive energy. I mean, obviously you need to know your why, but maybe you need to have that positive energy when you're writing your goal, so that energy can stays and maybe can amplify the results as well, no?
Yeah, I love that idea. You know, something that's fantastic for that, like having an accountability partner. So let's say, or let's go to the losing weight goal. Maybe ask one of your girlfriends, hey, would you mind holding me accountable that I go walking 4 times a week, and you make and like you ask me at every Sunday, how many times did you go walking this week? Or even better, can you come and join me and go walking with me 4 times a week so that I can get to my goal? Like that, having that accountability partner or friend or girlfriend, whoever, it helps a lot. And it also helps keep you on track. And then you're not doing it by yourself, which is always fun.
I love that. I love the accountability partner. So, any other tips for
No,
today?
just enjoy it, write it down, make a plan, and connect to why you want it so bad. I think that's probably key. Yeah. No,
Very
that's
good.
it.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful, Natalie. Thank you for sharing it. I'm taking notes, so I'm gonna use this. Next time when you meet me, I want to lose 8 pounds. So I want to see
Okay.
if I can do it or not. By
Okay.
next show together, I'm gonna show
Okay.
you how it went. Okay?
That's a deal. That's such a deal. Thank you so much for everything, like always.
Awesome. Till next time. Ciao.
Bye. Bye, guys.